Good morning, Broncos country. We are live on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, but we've got to bring in our Facebook communities real quick. Make sure everybody comes in. I know you've got a lot on your minds and you want to get off your chest after a loss to the Raiders. Welcome in, everybody. This is Broncos for Breakfast. I am your host, Scott Kennedy. It will be just me this morning and all of y'all. Naturally, Nick is on assignment somewhere out in a mountain doing his hiking thing. So he will be back on Wednesday. So it will be Broncos for breakfast tomorrow. I may or may not have a guest, but we will be back tomorrow, and it will be just me today. We'll probably keep it a little bit shorter today. We'll get in some good rants, some good raves, and we'll see if this one feels as bad the next day as it did yesterday, because I know on the gut reaction, I know how Broncos country was feeling. You're 2-2, but it seems like if you could switch the two wins and the two losses, you would in a heartbeat, because you lost the two you really didn't want to lose. You lost the Rust Bowl to Seattle, and then you lose a rematch with your former coach, who was basically a disgrace in Denver, and dropped fifth in a row to the Raiders. I know that hurts. The other part of it that probably hurts, not probably, what hurts more is the injuries. Is the injuries in this game. Javonte Williams could miss some significant time with a knee injury. Randy Gregory said after the game yesterday, he says, "I'm good, but you don't know until you get an MRI done," which happens today. It made me nervous last night when they said right away, Javonte Williams is out. That usually means, now again, this is pure speculation on my part, having watched injuries and stuff. It usually means he failed a stability test. What that means is if you have a knee injury, the doctors will come down, they'll hold your leg basically parallel, and they can move it. And if the leg moves laterally, up, down, or anything like that, if the joint moves without the attached thigh, there's a ligament problem. If you fail that stability test, which it actually doesn't hurt that much. I've seen people get up and try and run with a torn ACL because there's no pain in the ligament. There's that initial pop that hurts, but it's not like breaking a bone. But there's nothing attached, so they couldn't move. So guys are like, "Oh, it looks good. He's walking off on his own power." Man, that doesn't mean anything with ligaments. So my initial concern was that he failed a stability test and they ruled him out right away. Now he's got to go get the MRI done, and then that could hopefully can say, just a strain, a mild strain, a few weeks. If you're lucky, an MCL instead of an ACL. But it looks like you're going to be without Javonte Williams for a bit, and then we'll wait to see. Hopefully, it'll be good news. It'll be good news on Randy Gregory. Want to say good morning, some folks. It's been busy. I started this chat up early, and some folks have come in real early, including Jay. He says that Melvin Gordon fumble cost us the game. Easy 10 to 14 point differential, change everything. Couldn't do jack after. Russ looked really sharp, and hoping it's not a long-term injury for Pookie. I think we're all hoping that. And Jay, I agree with you. You had all the momentum in the world. All the momentum in the world was going your way. It was 10 to 10. The defense, I'm not sure if it was a 3 and out, but it was a quick change. It was like maybe 4 plays and then a punt. A good punt return again from Montreal Washington, who has looked spectacular returning kicks. Returning punts, just looked great. Converted a 4th and 1. All the momentum in the world. You're going down to like really seize this game, and then a fumble. And again, you're watching it, and it's not even like, oh yeah, that was the peanut punch or a helmet on an elbow where the ball comes flying out of there. It was, I'm rolling over, and the centrifugal force of me spinning was too much, and the ball goes flying out and hits somebody in the chest. It's inexcusable. It really is. And as I'm as I'm watching this, as I was watching this game, I was like, oh God, Zach's gonna have a coronary. And then, as I watched him last night on the gut reaction, it's like he's resigned. It's like the stages of grief. He's like, what can I even be mad about anymore? It's just this is who he is. This is what he's done. They are not changing it. It's not like this is a surprise. Um, I think we were all pretty much done with it last week. Where anybody that was saying, me included, Nick included, saying, okay, he's a good running back. This is a good contract. Not that big a deal. Running back two, okay. No, no more. No more. I don't want him touching the ball for the Denver Broncos again. No offense to Melvin Gordon, but 4 fumbles in 4 games is 4 too many. And this one, I'm not going to say the first one cost you the game, because he was stopped anyway on 4th and short. That was going to be a turnover there regardless against the Seahawks. But this one, yeah, I can put this one at the feet of Melvin Gordon, or in the hands of Melvin Gordon. I get it. I'm with you on this one. And the thing is, running backs are pretty easy to come by. You guys faced the Cleveland Browns last year. You saw what happened when they were on their 3rd string running back. The guy came in and ran for 130 yards. The Atlanta Falcons yesterday elevated a guy from a practice squad. Caleb Huntley made his NFL debut, ran like a beast. Running backs are easy. There's no reason to keep pouring $2.5 million into your backup running backs when you've got places you need to spend that money elsewhere, and you can find replacement running backs that'll at least hold on to the damn ball. That's the key. So Jay, I'm with you on that one. Diamond Rattler comes in. Good morning, Diamond. He says the Broncos offense and run defense is what's for breakfast: some scrambled eggs and shredded hash browns with some green ham. The run offense didn't look so good. The run defense. Now this is one of those things where did the game feel as bad to me watching it today as it did yesterday? And from a personnel standpoint, it probably did. There were so many missed tackles. But I always, I'm kind of grading the coaching staff on this one as I'm rewatching it. I'm like, okay, were the players being put into position to make plays, or were they just, being out schemed? Sometimes you can work guys open, you can scheme guys open, a little bootleg and some drag routes and all this type of stuff. But this was a case a lot where there were missed tackles in there. Jonas Griffith didn't have a great game. Josie Jewell was hot and cold. Kareem Jackson was missing some tackles. So, who is, as strange as it sounds when we're talking run defense, I felt like the player that was sorely, sorely missed in this game was Justin Simmons. This was a game where some of those cutbacks that Jacobs was able to have and then find space, instead of a 5-6 yard gain, they were going for 15-16. This was a Justin Simmons game. I think he could have really helped walking down into the box a little bit, where you felt comfortable enough on the backside of your defense to put another defender up there. I feel like I don't think this is an indication of what you can expect for future games running the ball. I don't. I think this was Jacobs having a huge game, and Simmons, his presence was missed. You're going to miss an all-pro safety. There's a reason why he's so good, why he's paid so much money. You hadn't missed him yet. You got a little bit lucky against San Francisco. You missed him in this game. You did. Jeremy Sean says, good morning, Scott. The Broncos lost in the trenches on both sides. If you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run, you'll probably lose. Never mind the penalties and the big fumble. Jeremy, you're speaking my language. You usually are. Nick and I go back and forth on this one a lot with, skill players and positions of value and all this type of stuff. And that's fine. But again, you have to be able to at least compete in the trenches. And for me, watching this game, because I listened to it on the radio and then I watched it. So I already knew it was going to happen. But when you rewatch the game and the outcome, it's like, okay, the special teams for the Raiders is a sore point because it was your old coach, special teams coach, and they have a nice return on a kickoff, and PJ Locke gets hurt. Okay, there's a start. And frankly, let me interrupt myself. let's do away with the kickoffs. Just do away with them. I would love to see an NFL poll of players of do 53, do the practice, not the practice squad guys, because maybe their only chance of making the team is kick returns. But 53 active players. You can do former players too, because I know the former players don't like them. And just say, should we get rid of the kickoffs? It's the most dangerous play in the game if there's even a return. It's just a waste of time, and it's a risk that you don't need to have. Just do away with the damn kickoffs. 9 times out of 10, they're kicked through the back of the end zone anyway. Let's save a little bit of time and start the ball on the 25. But this one happened to come back and was returned to about the 35. And then the offensive line for the Raiders is supposed to be a weakness, and their first play goes right up the gut. And I'd say right up the gut, but the Raiders' offensive line pushed the Broncos back 3 yards right off the snap. So they reset the line of scrimmage 5 yards deep before Jacobs has even got anybody near him on that first carry. I'm like, uh-oh. Yeah, this is kind of how it went most of the game. So having that, getting beat in the trenches up front like that, that I felt like the first 2 plays were kind of a harbinger of things to come. And, that's a little bit of the way it turned out. But the Broncos still did some very good things on defense as well. They stood up and made some plays and got some big stops on 1st and goals after turnovers and stuff like that. So the Broncos played with heart. They were just undone. One of the reasons they were undone is because the first half offense showed up in the third quarter this time. And what I mean by that is the Broncos went 4 straight 3-and-outs, punt, 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 4 straight in the second half. And eventually we talked about this last week, where one of the reasons you were able to hold up that way against the 49ers is because you kept pinning the ball inside the 10. You kept pinning them back, pinning them back, pinning them back. You won the field position battle. Wasn't necessarily the case this time, and you wear down. So we're talking about the run defense, but you got to get a little help. You got to get some help from your offense. If you are constantly just turning the ball back over to the other team and you're having to face a decent running attack, and, frankly, Josh Jacobs is more than decent, you're going to wear down. I mean, that's football 101. So Mike Woodward, he says, good morning, peeps. Good morning, Mike. Tofu17, this feels like a newer name, says, 3 takeaways for me. Josh Jacobs has our number. 2, moving on from Munchak is the worst move we made this offseason. 3, I don't know how we can trust Gordon if Javonte is out the rest of the season. And Tofu17, I don't think you should have to, honestly. You should be scouring the practice squads, the waiver wire. You should be finding other that you cannot be a playoff team. You cannot get to where you want to be right now and have Melvin Gordon as your RB1, getting 15 to 20 touches a game. That is not something that you can say, that you can look at yourself in the mirror as a general manager and say, we're good. We're okay here. You can't. There's got to be something in. So if he's out, there will be some moves made, whether it's an additional signing to the practice squad or an additional move to the 53. There will be other running backs brought in. There will be. Who's it going to be, and can they compete? Because right now, Melvin Gordon was moved to running back 3 at one point during the game. I don't know that you can trust him and Mike Boone in pass protection, which is such a shame, because Javonte Williams was having his best game in pass pro that he's ever had. So he was making improvements, becoming that complete running back yesterday. Just a shame. Mike also says, Max Crosby is special. That guy is a menace. Absolutely. Gatorade Gaming, the D has been the only bright spot of the young season. Not the only one. Not the only one. Cortland Sutton has been out there. I thought Jerry Jeudy played a pretty good game yesterday. I actually think Russell Wilson played a solid game yesterday. The numbers were good. He moved the ball for the most part when he needed to. You got to be able to get the running game going though. And how bad are you missing Tim Patrick right now? Good gracious. How many of us thought that would be as big a loss as it was going to be? Um, Let me see. We'll go down and we got a super coming in. So I'm gonna jump the chat just a little bit. Apologize everybody coming in. Uh that I'm scrolling over. But good morning. Oh, Jacob Foster coming in here on Facebook as well. The silent one. Good morning, Jacob. Appreciate you coming in. And then here it was Michael Roche. I'm gonna say Michael Roche. So good morning, Scott. I usually don't catch the podcast live. What are your thoughts on the offensive line and how they played? Good question, Michael. Let me take a slug of coffee and wet the whistle a little bit because this one could take a while. My thoughts on the offensive line, Michael. Oh goodness, big deep breath. Last year, you guys got sick of hearing me say the word bullied in the trenches. The Denver Broncos were bullied on both sides of the ball in the trenches. I don't necessarily think that's happening over and over again this year. Yesterday was the first time I thought that they got beat in the trenches for the most part. But I still don't think they got bullied in the trenches. There were some missed tackles. Josh Jacobs had a hell of a game, but I don't think the defensive line necessarily got bullied in the trenches. Your offensive line got pushed around last year. It really did. What'd you do? What did the Denver Broncos do to address that concern? He went and signed a couple of gimpy right tackles. End of. That's it. Okay, that was it. Garrett Bowles has been middling at best. Garrett Bowles has the highest salary cap number of any offensive lineman in the NFL this year at $21 million. Is he playing like the highest paid salary cap number in the NFL this year? No, he's playing mid-level at best. Dalton Risner has been a liability. Dalton Risner was not good last year. All of a sudden, we're going to change schemes and it's going to fit him better and they're going to be better. And Lloyd Cushenberry was a bottom 5 center for his first 2 years in the league. Year 3, he's going to all of a sudden magically get better. Quinn Miners was a person we were hoping would be a standout. Why didn't we hear anything about him during camp? Was it because he was nursing this injury and we didn't talk about it at all? It was kind of hidden, or did this truly happen in the first game? But he's been out. Who was in his spot a lot last year was Graham Glasgow, who wasn't good. He's gotten worse. He is so immobile. He cannot move. And then at right tackle, you're on your third or fourth guy because the first 2 guys you signed to try and compete at that spot haven't played a lick. Your offensive line is a disaster. It's a disaster. Now, somebody made a comment yesterday that some of this, that this goes on George Payton. And, the guys last night on the gut reaction kind of bucked that. They're like, this isn't on Payton. They, the ingredients are there. Are they? Are they? Again, I just mentioned, now you can't fix everything. You can't fix everything. You had a problem at quarterback. You had a problem in both lines of scrimmage. Okay, the defensive line looks good. You've done a lot to address the defensive line. The offensive line, no, you didn't do enough. You didn't do enough. Now, I'll say this again, and everybody drink. Abraham Lucas at right tackle instead of Nick Bonito was an easy pick for me. That was an easy one. But you had just signed these other guys, and they were going to give you a better chance to win out. Were they? And my question is, you've got questions about your strength conditioning and your staff, your strength and conditioning staff right now about keeping guys healthy. Well, who's monitoring the guys when they're coming in? Who's doing these medicals? You've got to, these guys have to pass medicals before you sign them to contracts. So they haven't been able to play. And who gave these guys the green light to sign them to begin with? Your medical staff is failing you, Denver. It's failing the Denver Broncos right now, not necessarily on just keeping guys healthy, but examining guys before you sign them. So that's a concern for me. So Michael, that's my concerns are seriously across. I'll say it again. It's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmys and Joes. You didn't change the Jimmys and Joes. You changed the X's and O's. The Jimmys and Joes are the same guys. Football is a physical game. This is a bigger, faster, stronger game. Schemes matter, of course. But You need players that are scheme independent, and playing poorly is playing poorly. Dalton Reisner has been playing poorly. Lloyd Cushenberry has been playing poorly. Graham Glasgow has been playing poorly. This goes across coaching staffs. So it's not just, okay, we're going to get a new coach and everything's magically going to get fixed, or Russell Wilson's going to magically fix everything, going to make these guys in front of them get better. They can play better, but they still are who they are, and that needs to be addressed. They need to be addressed for sure. Gary Lees Palmer coming in. Good morning, Gary. Thank you for the stars, my friend. Says, good morning, Scott. If I had any reservations about Gordon, they are gone, as he should be. Go Broncos. Yeah. Again, we're all done. There can't be any more Gordon sympathizers out there. I'm trying to take the positive side of that. I had all along, saying, $2.5 million, $3 million, good running back, 900 yards last year, bunch of touchdowns, nose for the end zone, done. We're all done. If you see somebody that has anything to say about him positive, you can basically say, oh, I found the Melvin Gordon fan. I knew there had to be one out there. Gary, I think we're all done. Coach Chris coming in here, coming in orange. Let me see if I can scroll down and find it. Here we go. Coach Chris, appreciate you coming in. He said, I'm done being frustrated with the team. Same results, but we gave away the future. Our offensive line was a joke. Melvin is what he is. Our run defense is soft. I love my Broncos, but 7 years of bad football has beat me down. And Chris, in Broncos country, I think you can read this comment and, you can say I can be beat down, or I can say, listen, it all wasn't going to be changed in a day. Because really read into this, what Chris is saying. I love my Broncos, but 7 years of bad football has beat me down. 7 years of bad football was not going to be erased overnight. There's some bad habits in this team, and they're not all going to be changed overnight. Again, especially when a lot of those bad habits are on your foundation in the offensive line right up front. Now, what's a little scary, Chris, on this, the same results, but we gave away the future. That's a couple of first-round draft picks. So when you're starting to look how I can get better next year, and my first pick isn't until about 90, that's a little scary, but I should be able to go out and upgrade my interior line and upgrade my interior offensive line for relatively cheap. Guards are pretty cheap. I should be able to get serviceable guards. I don't have to pay Graham Glasgow $14 million a year and then restructure his contract. There's going to be money coming back there. You should be able to get an infinite upgrade on Glasgow. Hopefully it'll be minors. But in Reisner, take Reisner and Glasgow's money and pour that into one left guard, and you should have an upgrade immediately. The center position. It shouldn't be that hard to get better at center than Lloyd Cushenberry. Again, those should be easy fixes where I can still do that despite the fact I don't have a ton of draft capital. I should be able to get better. Now, do I want 4 new starters across the offensive line? No, that takes a little while to gel, but Garrett Bowles is still okay. Quinn Miners can come back, hopefully be healthy at right guard. And then I've got, 3 positions I need to worry about: left guard, center, right tackle. I should be able to get center and left guard pretty cheap. Those aren't super expensive positions. I can take care of that in free agency, or even use one of my third-round picks. I've picked out, I say but I'm not the only one. This isn't overly difficult, but Abraham Lucas, Spencer Brown are guys that went in the 70s and 100 at right tackle that an idiot like me was able to pick out and say, those are players. Spencer Brown started in the playoffs for the Bills last year. Really good right tackle. Abraham Lucas, he helped the Seahawks put up 48 points, and I don't think he's allowed a pressure at right tackle as a rookie. It can be done. It can be done. How about Creed Humphrey at center for Kansas City? It can be done. Those aren't exceptions. Those are good scouting and good drafting and using picks on players on your frickin' line. How about inside linebacker? Is Ethan here? I haven't seen Ethan in here yet this morning. Ethan Muma, inside linebacker. I'm actually okay at inside linebacker. They didn't have their best game yesterday. but I'm so down on the offensive line that, if that doesn't get fixed, it doesn't really matter. O line equals no line. It is a little. It does feel a little bit like that as well. Jason O'Neill saying, "Good morning, Scott. Good morning. Appreciate it. And Broncos country. That's all of y'all." Doug Freeland says, "Where was Albert O? What a waste of a roster spot." That's a good point. Where is Albert O? Where is Greg Dulcich talking about hamstrings and health and games missed due to injury? We looked it up. We were talking about it last year, or earlier in the year, about the amount of injuries that the Broncos miss. Player weeks the Broncos missed is about 28th or 29th, and it has been for like 3 straight years. Man, you say that, injuries are a little bit of an anomaly. You can't necessarily predict them. Well, I can predict they're at bottom 5 every year. I mean, what is it? The altitude? You're not getting enough oxygen to your muscles and you're pulling muscles or something. That's the only consistent there, along with the staff. So, this says a rookie wasn't fixing the O-line issues. Issues, no, there's multiple issues. Abraham Lucas at right tackle would have fixed the right tackle position without a doubt. Patrick Estrella coming in says DJ Jones is a standout. Yeah, and again, it's hard for me when I start looking at them individually, watching each play and each player. It's hard to say that the guys were necessarily bullied in the trenches. Sometimes a scheme, some cutbacks, some good individual efforts from the Raiders were popping off some good runs, because I'd watch the individuals. DJ Jones is still really, really good. Deshaun Williams was quiet, and I thought Draymond Jones had a great game. I really did. I thought Draymond had a good game, maybe his best game of the season too. I thought the defense, again, you look at it and say, what were the final numbers? They probably ran for close to 200 yards. Jacobs they ran for 212 on 38 carries, 5.6. The Broncos only had 20 carries. So you're running twice as many running plays. Those things start to stack up when you have a little bit of success and start wearing them down, especially late. You have more success. I felt like the defense was holding its part until they just couldn't anymore, until they just kept getting not getting enough help from the offense, especially to start that second half. Patrick also comes in and says Washington is a standout. Absolutely. What was his final numbers on punt returns? 22-yard average. That's a kickoff return average, for God's sakes. He had 3 returns for 66 yards with a long of 30. That's an entire drive right there. I mean, you want to talk about field position? That's almost being in field goal range every time you get the ball when you're getting 20 yards of return. I'm catching it at the 20 and returning it at the 40. I need one completion, and I'm in there. I'm in field goal range. So Montreal Washington was spectacular. He runs when he's accelerating. His heels kick up so high that he's hard to get tripped up, because you can't swipe at his legs as you're diving at him, because he's running 3 feet off the ground. It's like he's elevated out there. He's really, really fun to watch. Let me see. Keep it real, Denver. He says what he says. Keep it real, Denver. Good thing is we can redeem the mistakes in 3 days. God, it's going to be a short week, isn't it? And you want to talk about, there's a desperate team. I think the Broncos are desperate. I'm not sure how desperate the Colts are right now. There is a lot of talk about Frank Reich being done. It would feel like a must win for Indianapolis, but it also feels like they're about ready to pack it in. We're going to find out how desperate they are. You played Seattle in their Super Bowl. You played Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders, when they had to have it at home. Had to, in a place where you haven't been able to beat them very often. They feel confident against the Denver Broncos. This is a wounded team that lacks belief for the Indianapolis Colts right now. They're definitely beatable. This is a must-have without a doubt. This is a must-have. And Akey says, no one fumbles a ball. No one fumbles a fumble 6 ball better than Melvin. Maybe I'm just reading that wrong. But Jetty says, nobody touched the ball in Gordon fumble. He just coughed at the ball by himself. Like I said, it was like as he's spinning to the ground, the centrifugal force caused the fumble. It was too much for him. Too much spinning. Couldn't hold on to it. Like being on, one of those carnival rides where, please, hold on to your phone or it'll go spinning out of there. Yeah, that was, again, I can't look at the entire chat today when I'm running this by myself. I'll be surprised if you can find a single person in Broncos country that says, oh yeah, we really need Melvin Gordon now. Good thing we have him. Replacement level. I can get guys off the practice squad that will help me win games better than Melvin Gordon right now. I can absolutely 100% without a doubt get guys off practice squads that can help my team win more than Melvin Gordon. Let me go down to the chat here real quick. I know here's a good comment from Merlot. It says, I pray Sutton stays healthy this season. Yeah, we mentioned this last week, Merlot. He's become so important that I don't want to see him fighting for extra yardage, like 1 or 2 yards here or there on the sidelines. I'm okay with him sideline hunting or almost acting like a quarterback and, sliding instead of taking on his safety after he's got the ball. He's got to protect himself. He's way too important. He's way too important out there. I want to come down and got a couple of supers that have come in. It's been very busy in here today. Appreciate you. KB, that's Kenneth. Kenneth Booker says, people say Gordon cost us the game, and they have a great point, but Josie's 2 terrible attempts at tackles that turned into huge plays for Oakland, for Las Vegas. Yeah, and it's not just, you when you make mistakes, you hope that your teammates can pick you up, that something else can happen, but mistakes kind of tend to compound into other mistakes. And yeah, it's not just one play, that says, that you didn't lose this because of, I don't know. I'm going to double talk on this one because like I said earlier, you had all the momentum in the world, but you had chances to make plays and pick up Melvin Gordon. You did. But if Melvin Gordon doesn't fumble that ball, but he's going to fumble, he fumbles every game, you are going to take charge of that game. You are on your way. It was a complete and total game changer. It was a game changer. So, they cost us a game. They have a great point. Yeah, they do. But it wasn't just Melvin Gordon. No, of course not. I've spent 15 minutes railing on the offensive line. It wasn't just Melvin Gordon. That's for sure. Let me go down to Michael here. Thoughts on Judy? Thoughts on Jerry Jeudy? I'm a little hot and cold on Jerry Jeudy. Honestly, Jerry Jeudy statistically had a decent game. 4 catches on 5 targets and should have been the 5th. The 5th was a drop. Hit him in the chest on the sideline. And a touchdown, couple of nice catches. His body language sucks. Let me just say that. It's almost like one of the phrases in soccer is he can't be bothered, or he just doesn't seem to. His body language sucks. That's the easiest way I can put it. He doesn't seem to put everything into it while he's out there. If things don't go his way, his shoulders are slumped. He's not. Doesn't strike me as a huge type of leader. The maturity of him turning into the next level of a great receiver is not quite there yet. Let me tell you all a story that goes back a little bit. The Atlanta Falcons back in the early 2000s used a first-round draft pick on a kid out of UAB named Roddy White. Really talented guy. Reminds me a lot of Jerry Jeudy right now at this age. Joe Horn was a receiver who had a lot of success. He was playing with the Saints at the time. And Joe Horn was kind of an undersized guy, played with an attitude. Some of those guys have to. That's how they get to where they are. They have to be bigger and brasher than they really are. I didn't particularly like it. The Falcons finished with the Saints one year, early in Roddy's career. And Joe Horn says he comes out and he finds Roddy after this game and he says, I'm coming here. I'm going to teach you how to play this game. I'm going to teach you. I'm going to turn you into a pro. He was like, I can't watch this. I cannot watch you waste this talent. You know, the guy, I'm coming here. And did. Joe Horn signed him with the Atlanta Falcons, mentored Roddy White, and Roddy White went on to have a spectacular career. I feel Judy is right now bad Roddy White. That's where I feel like he is. Plenty of talent. He just isn't a good pro right now. That's the best way I can put it. A talented wide receiver, but not a good professional. That's what I see. Could be way off on this one. But you know, Michael, you asked me my thoughts on Roddy White. I mean, on Jerry Jeudy. Those are my thoughts on Jerry Jeudy. He's not a good pro right now. Devin Clark says we should bring back Lindsey. He never put the ball on the ground. Again, he's on the Colts practice squad. I just mentioned guys that could help you win games that you'd rather have. You know, Philip Lindsay is a cult hero with the Denver Broncos. Since he's been gone, he hasn't done anything. You know, those are one of those things where, you know, you lament, you remember them for what they were and think that's what they are. And that's not really Philip Lindsay anymore. It hurts when you turn your back on a guy and he goes on and has success. You're like, see, we shouldn't have gotten rid of him. But I think the decision to let Lindsay go has been justified with 3 different teams now: Houston, Dolphins, Colts, where he hasn't been able to stick or really find any production. But that said, who would you rather hand the ball to right now? Philip Lindsay or Melvin Gordon? That's an easy discussion right now. I would rather hand it to anybody. I'd rather see, you know, Jalen Virgil back there at running back. Super athlete, not a very natural receiver, only averaged about 18 catches a game in college for a passing team that threw for over 3,000 yards at, a season. I'd rather see Montreal Washington. Anybody. You can't give it to Gordon. You know, how did everybody feel? And I know this is rhetorical. How did everybody feel when you were backed up at the 1 and you're giving the ball to Melvin Gordon? You know, not only he was running tentative at that point too. I mean, it's in his head. He knows. Trust me, he knows. I mean, he comes off super cocky and arrogant and confident, but he knows what's been going on. So Devin, and that's a pretty good point. He's never fumbled. Philip Lindsay has never fumbled. That's a pretty impressive stat. Benjamin Flores coming in. He says, I'll say this though, the first TD drive was a thing of beauty and Russ made some amazing throws. We were calling for this a little bit last week, Benjamin, about getting the ball out quickly. What was that first throw? 3-step drop, slant, Cortland Sutton. You know, it was good. And seeing them do some of that, seeing them do some of that quickly as well. Doug Freeland says Divine Ozigbo from our practice squad would be an upgrade. Like I said, it wouldn't be hard. I think you'll be trying out running backs this week. Javonte Williams, even if it's a strain, you're going to need to bring in another back, even if he's out just a week, a couple of weeks, for sure. Let me see here. Let me come down the chat here just a little bit, see how it goes. This is RR coming in. It says trade Judy. Here's one of the things that I think it's a little bit funny when I see the talk for trade, because it usually is preceded by, this guy stinks. He's not trying very hard. He's overpaid. He's always injured. Trade him. Like, well, you didn't really do a good sales job there. He isn't any good. He's always fumbling the ball. It's like, oh, we should trade Melvin Gordon. Who the hell would want Melvin Gordon right now? You know, we should trade him. Trade him? You can't trade him. Nobody would trade you for him. You know, you've got to trade a positive. You got to cut a negative. You trade positive. So if, and this isn't on URR, this is just, I see this stuff a lot talking about a lot of players where it's like, this guy stinks. He's overpaid. He's always hurt and he's unproductive. Trade him. No, you don't trade negatives. You trade positives. You cut negatives. As ERS says, it would be stupid to trade Jerry Jeudy. You can't trade him right now. The question coming in the next year is, do you pick up his 5th-year option? That's coming up soon. Right now, I'm not sure that you do. I'm not sure that you pick up his 5th-year option, and then try and you pick it up and then maybe try and trade him. But his 5th-year option will be in the neighborhood somewhere of $15 million. Maybe not quite that much, but it'd be close. And that would be for 2024. So that would be not in at best what you get, maybe a 3rd rounder, a 4th rounder for him. We'll see. You would be trading low, that's for sure. You cut negatives. You can't trade negatives on that one. Yeah, and this is Jeremy Shawn, and this might be a better example for Broncos country. I knew Rod Smith as a production. I didn't know him like as the person watching him. But if Jeudy had half of Rod Smith's, those are a couple of two good Roddies right there. Rod Smith, Denver Broncos legend, and then Roddy Smith, Atlanta Falcons legend. Mentality, he'd be an all-pro. Henceforth, he's usually known as Bad Roddy. So yeah, I was talking about two legends who both were Rod and Roddy Smith. Let me see. Chess comes in and says, is AP done? Adrian Peterson done boxing and want one more shot at football? That one might be a little bit more. If Herschel Walker doesn't go to the Senate, give him a call. He might still be able to run the rock a little bit. Let me see here. We're at about 42 minutes, so we can start wrapping it up unless there's any burning questions coming in. Yeah, and RR says don't pick up the 5th-year option. I'm kind of with you on that one. And Skilo comes in here. He says we signed Jawan Williams. Is that Jawan James? That Jawan, he said it didn't work. We signed Billy Turner, hurt. Tom Compton, hurt. We drafted Cushenberry, Miners, Reisner, and Compton. We've been trying to address it, but the luck is bad. Last 2 drafts, I guess, is where it feels like you drafted Miners, and he's been hurt. And then you drafted Wattenberg. So we'll see. But those are 5th round picks. Again, I would have liked to have seen the Nick Benito pick go to the offensive line. For me, that would have been one. And Reese Scott says we have no choice but to use Gordon in the short term. BS is what I think about this one. No offense, Reese. No way. You have a choice, and you don't have to hand it to Melvin Gordon. There are 1,000 running backs out there dying to play some more. You don't have to hand it to Melvin Gordon anymore. Melvin Gordon is done. You can take the optimistic look and say, okay, he's ready to step up. He's done. He understands. But I'd be done with him. I couldn't do it. You do have a choice. You bring guys in, this week, and you hand them the ball. Elevate a guy from the practice squad. Sign somebody else from the practice squad. Send a 7th-round pick to someone for their 3rd grade. Anything. Again, Reese, would you rather have, you're allowed to sign guys off of other teams' practice squads if you put them on your 53. You don't have to have Melvin Gordon. It's not a rule. Like, you can make changes to the roster today. No, you're not stuck with Melvin Gordon. That is a choice you make if Melvin Gordon ends up carrying the ball, touching the ball 15 times on Thursday. That's a choice. It's not a necessity. And if it's a choice, by God, it better pay off, or seats are warming up if that's what it ends up being. So I like I said, that's a choice on that one. So Let me see if there's any burning topics in here, and I think that's probably going to do it for about us. We're at 45 minutes. Um, just a little bit of on just some matters of business. The aftermath guys will be back here tonight, so make sure you are following everybody on MHH on Twitter. That will be Chad and Zach, and we'll have some more news on Randy Gregory and Javonte Williams for tonight. And then I'll be back tomorrow morning, and we'll take a look at the week that was, and not just Broncos, but how it all fits in, and it'll be preview time. It'll be time to preview the game for for Thursday, as it's a short week. And that's it. Appreciate everybody coming in. There are a lot of eyeballs on me this morning. There's almost 300 in here, which is a big crowd. So make sure you're hitting that like button. If it's your first time watching, hit that subscribe button. If you can make it on mornings, it's not usually just me sitting here rambling and sucking on cough drops trying to get over this cold. Nick will be back on Thursday, and we'll have a game preview. So that's it for today. I appreciate everybody joining me and sticking with me. The chat was great. You made this a lot of fun. So check out the Mile High Huddle guys tonight at 6 Central, and I will be back tomorrow for Broncos for breakfast. So until then, we'll see you next time.